for the ages, two all-time greats of the AD carry role, Deft and Bang. Numbers don't look good for Deft. It hasn't been a fantastic season for him. The Varus pick has been his most reliable. We know he can play the Cog more. We don't talk about the Vayne game where he forgot QSS was an item. Whereas Bang, it has Ezreal. Even in the defeat, the 2 games of Bang Ezreal have been a treat.
Yeah, and he almost did 40,000 more damage than his lane opponent in that loss against Jin Air as well. So having a look at score,
how cool a stat is this? It is his 400th game in the LCK, the only player to play in the first ever tournament that OGN ran, the Invitational, before even Champions was a thing. Right in January 2012, 6 years later, he is back, still trying to fight, still trying to find his first title.
Wow.
But when it comes to the Telecom war, the fans are going with the percentages. 72% say SK Telecom will win on this day, even with SKT coming off that famous loss to Jin Air Greenland.
Just shows that the history of SKT always having the number of KT is well and truly in the minds of all of the fans. I was expecting that one to be a little bit closer, but I'm often one of the believers. You know, we go into these Telecom wars and half the time we're like, KT has the form, KT can do this, but just never the case, especially if you're looking at last year.
Korean fans love winners, and a lot of these KT players are winners on other teams, but not on KT. So to get that extra burst, to get the fan expectation, they have to win, Atlas. If they win here, they will snap that losing streak as this roster of 5 against SKT. But SKT are definitely going to be annoyed. They are coming off a loss they would never have expected. The Telecom war is always its own delight. Even in a vacuum, it's massive. But at this point in the season, with both teams trying to strive to find a place on this ladder, get right up to the top, we get to start it off here.
And we're going to start it off with the Rise ban as well as we head into Champion Select, ladies and gentlemen. Not going to be seeing that one out of Faker. His Rise has been so incredibly strong, even against champions that should theoretically be able to poke him. It doesn't matter. He's standing on the enemy caster creeps, smacking your face in. Cogmore not going to be seen by Deft as well, of course, has let that one through once of other teams, but he has been able to pick up the wins there.
And KT were actually banning Deft away from the Cogmore. They've been banning it on blue and red side, even with Deft, probably one of the most famous Cogmore players of all time. So
yeah,
certainly going to find some firepower. The first pick, Ezreal, looking more and more likely. Varus, Kalista, Cogmore already razor-sharp focus on the AD carry pool. Deft has always said his favorite AD carry to play is the Ezreal. So that's a very likely first pick, unless KT or SKT have other ideas, and now we're really setting up the Ezreal. It seems an obvious ban, but then Sejuani is a big first pick for score.
Yeah, Tristana also raises in stock value as well as we thin this pool.
Caitlyn also.
Yeah, Caitlyn, very, very true. And Deft, KT have almost been the best Caitlyn composition team in the world. You know, they're fantastic at navigating that early game. Ezreal is going to be banned, so what is the choice going to be here?
Sejuani is a really big one. I think Tristana and Caitlyn are around similar power levels, so you don't need to necessarily do anything crazy there, so they will just first pick the Sejuani. Both Deft and Bang have their pocket picks. Twitch is a big pick for both of them when their backs are against the wall, and if they leave AD carry for second round, we're starting to thin out, Atlas.
Yeah. I mean, then we're going to get Xayah bans, we're going to get the Tristana and Caitlyn, of course, banned. Braum sticking out like a sore thumb, but Tahm is going to be there if Marta does want to try and answer some of the melee support that has been going on. I want to see Marta on the Alistar. After seeing what Wraith was capable of in our earlier series, watching Gorilla play yesterday as well, I feel like Marta does have something to prove, but the Gnar is going to be locked in. SKT not going to be able to get that Gnar Rise combo that we've been seeing so much in the LCK, but certainly strong top lane and certainly strong blind pick coming out of Tara.
Support pool, like you say, may have to be picked up here. Taric is a big popular pick, but sort of thing where if you don't have a Sivir to guarantee positioning, you can start getting kited out. And, well, we saw the Khan Jace Smeb, but most likely going to be on Jace. Pawn has played it as well, so chance of it being a flex pick, but expect it to be Jace into the Gnar as we're going for the style picks from the past.
Stop playing with our hearts, Pawn. That's not very fair. You've already got your Jace locked in, theoretically.
He's already played it mid, and we've seen it top lane from Smeb in previous Telecom wars, so they're just going for a bit of the mind games. Caitlyn and Tristana makes a lot of sense, and no one's really prioritizing Xayah, is at least a little bit surprising, given that other teams have. The Jace against Gnar was how Khan just completely obliterated his opposition yesterday against the Afrika Freaks against Keen. So we're thinking it's going to be Jace top.
But it could be a different story, though, because on Tara, we have been giving him a bit of a hard time. I mean, this guy hasn't really been a standout player. You can't look past the fact that he's 100% win rate on this champion and has a 34 KDA. Has only died once out of the 3 times that he has played this champion. So certainly will be a more difficult story than against Keen.
With counterpick, Untara has been strong. With Gnar, in general, like you say, 3-0 is great reading. He is counterpicked by the Jace. It's going to require attention from Blank on whichever jungler he's going to be visiting. Can already see a Jarvan ban. If you look at solo queue, Blank has largely been playing Nidalee, surprisingly, and also the Camille. Is Nidalee just a solo queue stomping strategy, or will he be willing to bring it into professional play like other junglers have already done in LCK Spring? That part remains to be seen, but Jarvan's definitely a bit more the norm of his picks on the side of SKT. And the Zoe respect ban is second round, but Zoe's been deprioritized, and we're just unsure whether we'll ever see Faker launching those paddle stars and hard carrying games from mid.
I know, and we've seen it so many times on stream. I'm sure you guys from home have been watching it as well, but not going to be able to see it in the LCK, at least not for game number 1 here in our first Telecom War.
No Zac ban, and it is the famous pick there for Blank, but he's considering going for what he's in form with. And look at this, they will settle on the return of his Nidalee. When he debuted on SKT's lineup in early 2016, Nidalee was one of the picks. They said they brought him in for his mechanical proficiency over then the other jungler, now of course the coach of SKT, Bengi. So Nidalee here is something he's really in form with. Like I said, 11-2 in his past 7 days, but already a very different look to Blank. He's obviously used his time in solo queue away from the professional scene, training up new picks.
Yeah, I do like the answer, though.
Hey,
KT,
look who it is.
Here we go. This is a look back to their old extraordinarily successful comps that they were running. With the Galio, with the Caitlyn, moving around, taking down minion waves.
And it's what we saw just yesterday, you remember. The Rocks Tigers blind picking Galio. It's amazing that out of nowhere, no Galio priority a week ago into Galio blind picks. Any scaling matchup is strong against Galio. One of the ones that SKT used to default to is the Corki. But KT got so many of their wins through an invading jungle. You think of Kha'Zix and Galio, best friends forever. This is very much strong front line and then AD threats. It's probably going to have to be the AP Galio that we saw yesterday from Lava, former SKT sub trainee Lava, who of course now is the mid laner of Rocks Tigers. He went Proto Belt into Leandri's, into Void Stuff, full AP, and just relying on the resists you get from W and the tankiness of Galio's kit. Could go full tank, but then there are some damage concerns. Surprising to see Galio. It feels like out of nowhere, but now Pawn's doing it. You think BDD is considering it as well. The Galio meta may be back upon us.
Yeah, and it was Pawn and BDD that really were our standout Galio players as well. I was going to mention that KT made compositions like this look extraordinarily easy. It was with champions like Kha'Zix coming out of the jungle, things like that, champions that do have a little bit more damage behind them. The Sejuani is going to be different, but then Jace makes up for it on the top side of the map and is also a fantastic lane matchup. I like what KT have done, but once again, it's SKT knowing exactly what they want to do and then picking for that as well.
And the thing for KT is you like the draft. If it goes AP Galio, maybe there's enough damage from the Galio as well, but the caveat always is KT so rarely get all their chess pieces in order in the same game. In the same game where Smeb is popping off, Deft might be putting down a control ward, face checking and dying, they very rarely get everything together. But as a holistic draft, on paper, you love KT. On paper, you predict great things out of KT, but the paper gets ripped up more often than not. So let's see if they can actually put that theory to practice.
And once again, SKT look like they have a late game composition that could tear up KT Rolster as well. KT Rolster's gonna have to have one of those early games that they've been known for having. The Telecom War, ladies and gentlemen, is about to unfold. It's time to head to Summoner's Rift. Okay, we got a face check, guys. It's KT already using their flashes. Smeb's going to be taken down. And this is why sometimes you can't wait for the cheers, because there's people dying.
Yeah, score was already flashed. Smeb didn't use his flash, but went down. Fully out of context there. We also have the broadcast feeds. We have no idea what happened in the first 25 seconds of the game. We'll get a replay to you soon, but already out of nowhere, the plan starts to go awry. The early game starts to go awry as KT just tried to rush in. They W'd their W start from Mata. They thought, okay, this will be fine. Let's back away. SKT were lying in wait. Not sort of brush that you see started on. You don't often see 4-man camps, but let's remember one of those old kind of adages of League of Legends. Not right at the start, not the don't chase singed adage, but Braum's level 1 Atlas. It's one of the most famous for a reason. You face check a Braum, you die. It wasn't Score, but it was Smeb. 400 games for Score, the 400th game. The big landmarks for Score so often are disappointing, Atlas. The finals, the 400th game. Let's see if he can rewrite history, but for now, not a great look for KT Rolster.
No, not feeling brilliant. Smeb. He's going with Summoner Airy here on the Jace this time around, and Tara getting into the lane nicely, and we'll see whether Smeb's going to be able to have the same level of performance that we saw out of Khan yesterday. Making his debut for 2018 was a terrifying thing to behold. Smeb now, see whether he can do the same.
You guys are wondering about the matchup. It is Jace's favorite matchup. It's one of those matchups where Gnar actually does smart. One of the standard counterpick matchups, like Gnar versus GP, Gnar versus Ornn. I've been seeing very commonly. But both sides know that. Ontara knows it, that's why he's not starting an offensive item, he's going for Doran Shield. Both junglers know it. So there's always this kind of prisoner dilemma of, do you gank for it? Are you there for the counter gank? What are they expecting? What is he going to do? What is they going to do? A lot of rock, paper, scissors about situations like that. So no guarantees it's just going to be Smeb rolling his face over the keyboard and taking down Gnar. It's just what it is on paper.
Well, you can see Deft and Mata are certainly playing up. They're abusing the fact that this lane is ridiculously strong in the early levels.
I mean, it's a free Caitlyn lane, which is always a happy way, as Ontara gets very aggressive with his level 3.
Yeah, heading into the Mega Gnar, and Smeb has to smack him away. That's a huge win. Blank's waiting around here at the same time, and I feel like if he could potentially land a spear, it could have been an opportunity, but Ontara is going to get exhausted, head back to mini Gnar form and continue being frustrating, but this is not the sort of Jace versus Gnar that we've been led to expect.
The extra variable of the jungler being without flash, and Nidalee was already going to be battle warding anyway. Here we go.
Yeah, Arctic Assault having to be used by a Score to get himself out of the way, and Blank showing his prowess on the Nidalee that we've been waiting to see for a long time. Oh, looking for Faker, but this follow-up damage is certainly something that you do not want to be seeing.
He's already through both potions as well. Faker knows his role. Scaling matchup. Starts with the Cull, looking for the farm only. Not a lot of threat from Galio without Sejuani helping, and now especially with Sejuani no flash, he's feeling great going the investment banker route.
Yep, you can see Pawn actually heading into the Resolve tree as well, so it's not going to be at least a rune page based on damage. We'll see what his build is going to show us, though.
Lava went both ways. Had a full tank Galio game, and then followed that up with the more offensive choice when he needed to. And, you know, your first read on this comp is going to be low damage in the late game, physical damage only. Team comps are so hard to evaluate just because one side has Nidalee and the other side has Jace, so neither of those champions scream out for team fight.
Yeah. Tara taking a lot of damage, but Smeb as well really isn't being able to punish this Gnar the way that we've seen. A lot of it needs to go as credit to Ontara, who has looked so good. Bottom side of the map continues to be a problem. Is this going to be a Zephyr Max Mata? We know that he took it first, and we know that he's got Summoner Airy. This could be the incredibly toxic Janna we've been seeing in solo queue.
He doesn't have the Ignite this game, so you think it's probably going to be going for the E-Max.
The Storm Max, yeah.
And of course, in competitive play, the W-Max against anything other than 2 super melee champions would be very risky, but he's certainly going to be getting his gold generation on, just pushing up and using the W off cooldown.
So far, Deft farming out extraordinarily well. 15 CS ahead at 5 minutes into the game is nothing to scoff at.
Pushing in bot lane, expected. Caitlyn Janna, as you say, very good to lane. You get a free Janna lane because it's against the tanks, so no pressure there. Also expecting the same sort of advantages early in the mid lane and also throughout the top lane matchup. We see Score coming around. This is very nice pathing from him.
Yeah, teleport comes in. The hop is going to be there, but he's running out of gap closes. The flash is still up. Ontara's going to have to use it, but Permafrost comes in and Smeb just picks up the kill. Ontara holds onto the flash the whole time.
He didn't really feel like he could get away. His Mega Gnar was kind of be the thing. He wanted to go for a crunch and then flash away. Couldn't get there. Makes the educated read that he would have died. So hard to really evaluate. All summoners were up by that point for Score and Smeb. If Score didn't have his flash up, maybe you go for the flash, but in the end, Ontara decides he doesn't want to die to the return gank, and just holds on to that ability.
Well, Mata's going to ward here. He's probably going to see Faker, who moves down. Good movement there by Deft to get out of the way of the Winter's Bite. Could have spelt his death. Cupcake being put down as Effort taking a lot of damage here, and in fact,
2v3.
2 versus 3, they're looking real good. Peacemaker's not looking very peaceful as Effort takes a whole bunch more damage. Faker below half, having to blow consumables, and Pawn's on his way down. Level 6 is there. Heroic entrance, certainly part of it, and that round of applause makes a whole lot of sense. KT, this bottom side, what have these AD carries been eating for breakfast, Papa Smithy? They seem to be facing SKT and then looking like gods.
I mean, Caitlyn is basically eating Tristana, Braum, and even the Corki for breakfast, Atlas. And the reason for why Faker was still there, he went for a roam, largely to help SKT get a preferential back. They're getting crunched in the lane. So Tristana and Braum wanted to push in and recall. Corki was trying to help push the wave. But then you say 2v3, it's almost like 1.5 versus 3 because Janna doesn't have that much lane presence alone.
Yeah,
just
true.
the Caitlyn basically hitting back, stopping there from being a preferential back. Getting a preferential back after you're losing lane that hard is a pretty big win for SKT, but they were denied it even after investing the time of Faker.
And we need to sort of talk about Deft here as well and talk about the evolution of him as an AD carry, because originally, you know, when we were seeing him in the Samsung days, he was known as that player that played very reserved in the laning phase, then was extraordinarily good at positioning in team fights. And it almost feels like he's done a relative 360 on that note, because now, when he can play forward, Deft looks extraordinarily good, but can sometimes get a little bit overly optimistic with a lot of these plays. And right now you can see it's actually paying off brilliantly for KT because he's playing with reckless abandon, but getting away with it.
Beautiful metaphor for KT really as a whole, and I kind of alluded to it earlier. So rarely can all these players fire in the same game, and then you have players like Deft who've shown he can be a laning god, and we know he can be a teamfight god, but those data points of his teamfight prowess are a couple of games in 2017, some games in China, and then largely 2014, which now is 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So when it comes to individual players, Deft still has a very high tier list ranking. How good is he compared to the other AD carries? Like Teddy, for example, hard to say. His ability to team fight and lane, I would say the laning is the more reliable point. He's also on Caitlyn versus Braum and a Tristana, so it is still expected what we're seeing in this lane.
Yeah, it's just that this style of play from him has certainly been one that he's been able to pick up. Ace in the hole going to fly out. Effort nails it.
Let's also note something. Interesting choice of rune here from Def. He actually goes for Unsealed Spellbook, kind of a Sivir-esque approach of whatever happens in lane.
He's an inspiration fan, isn't he?
He is indeed. A lot of people are in solo queue and also in competitive play, but able to teleport back to lane and push is what he's doing here. Push, push, push style, and even with a stronger laning phase than Sivir, so that's definitely going to help that CS lead grow larger and larger.
Well, speaking of CS lead, there isn't one on the top side of the map, and Tara's been playing this one out extraordinarily well. Actually pulls ahead. Still getting the push advantage is Smeb, but otherwise, certainly hats off to Antara for being able to play this one nicely. Good warding. KT's jungle, just package has to be respected.
Smeb is building purely for lane. You look at the enemy team, and the first item that comes to your head is not Blade of the Ruined King, given that it's very, very squishy from the side of SKT, but Blade of the Ruined King into the Black Cleaver was the build we saw from Khan, and it just destroyed the Gnar. Feels like we're going to be comparing names like Khan, Cuvée, and also Smeb quite extensively, and given Smeb had some big misfires last time out. Let's watch Score, just chasing Ontara away, trying to actually help the top lane after kind of being a non-factor with his flash down earlier.
Yeah, of course, Smeb on the Jace, very, very good at taking down these turrets, so Score creating space here does make a lot of sense. Should actually get a fair bit of work done. Not sure what they'll be able to take down in this wave. In the meantime, Blank's going to be able to grab Cloud Drake #1. SKT losing out on a little bit of the gold there, but the movement speed out of combat is certainly going to be handy, especially with these skirmish-type drafts that we're seeing out of both of these teams.
But isn't it lovely when both teams are playing to their vision? Bottom side was littered with control wards and control for the side of SKT. They take the Drake. All the warding for KT is on the top side. They take the outer turret. They let the gold go to Smeb, try to get him to his Blade of the Ruined King earlier, and giving up a Cloud Drake is certainly not a big cost. The thing about when this game opens up is, especially early with turrets down, KT gets scarier, because guess what? You invade, Galio responds first from the mid lane unless the package is there, and even then, no guarantee for the Corki, and you can make proactive plays with a Galio draft better than any other mid laner in the game. So this is the point where with a longer lane, actually getting red side control for SKT in the top side is going to be very tricky.
Yeah. One thing I do want to note as well is that Faker's package, in fact, timed out. He was trying to use it top and bottom, but KT, understanding the timings, had the vision there, had it all prepped. And it just feels like both of these teams, they're thinking about exactly what could go wrong and preparing each time. It's like a game of chess. Everything's being played a few turns ahead.
Feels like the chess is definitely favoring blue side here. Almost got that second turret down, and every time Galio leaves, gets scary and scarier.
Yeah, speaking of scary, Def takes way too much damage, has to flash out of the way. Glacial Fissure not going to be in line as Blank turns up, adding to this 3v3.
Reading a little bit too much there, KT Rolster. They thought, okay, 2 charts, 11 minutes, that'd be great, but Blank there, free damage, like you say, turning around the skirmish as Blank meets score.
Yep, teleport's going to be back up, remember, for Deft at the same time. So if he does go back, he teleports straight back to the turret, and it's not going to be that punishing circumstance that it potentially could have been. Because KT can get their AD carry back here and continue that shove, now with a static shiv at the same time. So
push, push, push.
Yeah.
That's all he's doing with a build like this. Very much about PvE, pushing down the turrets, long lanes, Galio coming in with the hero's entrance. Very clear game plan from KT, but one that worked a treat for Rox Tigers just yesterday. So the fact that this is not completely new for KT means that SKT should be ready.
Well, Effort's in trouble. Blastcone's going to get him out of there, and they've now got a man advantage. Def gets over the wall, but Marta has to be careful. Heroic entrance on top of Score, and Marta's going to be able to pick up the kill. Bang! Seizes Death, and Smeb grabs the kill. Can we get KT moving up towards inner turrets now?
This is some real rookie mistakes from SKT. Effort, remember, is still there. No Wolf in this game. They walk up, they take trades. Tristana rocket jumps in against a Galio. It's always a mistake, Atlas, especially when you're not ahead in gold of any great degree. They thought, okay, we can delete Marta. He'd already used some of his abilities. They knew that the ultimate was down from the Janna, but too easy for KT Rolster. And now the problems of the side lanes start to get snowballed into Faker's lane.
Yeah, and I just feel like draft-wise, I know blue side certainly does have a little bit of favor when you're drafting. You can create the situation that you want, but playing on these sort of second-tier AD carries, Deft, I feel, just has so much more mastery on the likes of the Caitlyn, on these sort of B to C tier picks. And the specialization of Bang, like his Ezreal, legendary. His Sivir, fantastic. But if a lot of these get banned away, feels like KT have got the deeper pockets.
And also the level 1 misfire by Score and Smeb is not costing what is an early game priority draft. Jace into Gnar is a winning matchup. Galio clears faster than the Corki, even if he's not going to be able to really pressure him. And Caitlyn Janna needs no explanation when it comes to the Tristana lane. So despite that misfire, still able to return, still able to fire on the same cylinders, and then you add in an SKT over Pursue against a Galio hero's entrance. This is the result, as it should be. Advantage KT Rolster.
Yeah, Abyssal Mask now done for Pawn as well. He's got to his first item. We'll see whether it starts to be slightly more damage focused at this stage. You mentioned Lava's item build that he opted in for. It didn't look like this. Certainly, Abyssal Mask does help if you decide to go for more of a magic penetration route.
A bit of a strange choice. It is because he's against Nidalee and Corki, so the magic resist getting a lot of value, but definitely not buffing up damage for anyone else on the team, short of a couple of cheeky Marta W's and some Sejuani damage. Yeah. Again, there's no need to go the damage route, except if the game slows down, you will be outscaled in terms of damage if you're KT.
Well, speaking of problems, we've got a Permafrost coming in here on top of Blank. Score still fighting as Ace in the Hole flies forward, which is rough. Oh, Faker sidestepping that one with a plum. Smeb needing to make his way out. Slightly awkward positioning here for the Jace, but will get his way around.
No chance of a flank. Galio was keeping Gnar occupied on top side. There's no Drake for them to fall back yet, but they are getting Drake control. 55 seconds for that to spawn. The only objective that SKT has picked up so far this game has been the Cloud Drake, and from now on it seems like going to be very difficult for them to actually power down another one.
Yeah, seems like a little bit of calm before an inevitable storm. Smeb spotting out some vision, so important in this matchup.
I love that Score also has taken, a page from Umti's book. He went fleet footwork. He was supposed to be proactive this game. He's run around the map, 3 assists, did not die, had to use his flash level 1. But the plan from KT everywhere. Galio mid lane, proactivity. Sejuani with fleet footwork, proactivity. Caitlyn Janna in lane against the tank support, proactivity. It is at the cost of late game. No aftershock. Galio right now, very low damage build. But for now, it is also complete supremacy in the early to mid game.
We'll see whether some of these item spikes that are coming in are going to help SKT out, because Trinity Force is now done. Untara opting in for a much safer build, picking up that Frozen Mallet instead of the Black Cleaver that we see so often, but he's going to be able to potentially give a little bit more in these team fights, having the added health and the added CC to try and set up some of these kills. And I actually really like it. When you don't have as much CC on Blank, try and go for as much CC as you possibly can.
It's also a very simple story of if he goes Black Cleaver, he gets instant killed by the Jace. He just powers him down. The stats aren't going to be relevant enough. So a stacking slow and his teammate helping him out is all he can hope for. Is you can see Def's mindset very clearly.
Oh yeah, he is angry as hell. The kind of Def that you want to see. Hasn't had the best start to the season, especially up against Kramer. Really wasn't fun for KT fans in that first series of 2018. We were expecting KT to come out flying, and they were confident. Confidence bit them.
But isn't it fun that we have Afrika beating KT, and then Kingzone beating Afrika, and KSB looking a level above, while SKT trips down to Jin Air? We're having all sorts of scenarios where the top teams have not necessarily revealed themselves. We all have our suspicions. We all know the big names. But some of the teams that are unfancied are coming up big. And KT trying to get a 1-0 lead here. Even if they pick up the win, we know better than to give them the series. They still have never won a best of 3 or best of 5 as this roster. But you have to say, first 20 minutes, a big check mark, an A+.
Yeah, feeling brilliant. Just over 3,000 gold is going to be the lead. KT looking at this Rift Herald, we'll see whether they do pick it up. Breaking open these inner turrets is more difficult, and having Shelly there available will certainly help them out. They've got the vision. They've put it down. Marta's been hanging out. But you can see the vision for SKT also fantastic, understanding that they need to understand the movements around the map on the top side. I'm going to start it off.
The tanks can take it relatively fast, so no real need for any of the damage dealers or wave clearers to get involved in triple control ward. Says, hey, this is our objective, and SKT obliged by trying to make things happen bot side.
Yep, Smeb dodging out of the way of some of these, but this turret is still at full health. The Shock Blast is going to say, get out of my lane, Faker.
Thought it EQ'd a wave clear, but that's not the Smeb way. He wants to show a bit of lane presence, and Italy had backed away.
All about sending a message, Pop Smithy.
Man, that control ward line is the god tier. 5 control wards all in the river, none of them clear. That's, you know, that SKT is scared, Atlas. They don't feel like they can walk up and clear any of that control vision. Beautiful stuff from KT Rolster, and for now, SKT are going to one wave, usually taking a buddy with them, so enacting the buddy system, and then backing away and saying, well, scaling is still a win condition for us. And KT so far pushing forward very impressively.
Very impressively, and now they do have that Rift Herald that we were talking about, so we'll see which lane they are going to throw that one down in. Pings on the bottom side. You can see Smeb, a lot of wave clear to his name. 2 items now picked up. We're talking about item spikes on the side of SKT. Now it's 2 items for Def. This is an accelerated Caitlyn as well. So normally you're talking about item spikes when you're hitting about 3, when you're hitting 4, but when it comes at this fast a clip before 20 minutes on the Static Shiv and the Infinity Edge, that still feels brilliant. This mid inner turret under fire, Effort doing the best that he can. 2 supports that are actually pretty good in this game as far as saving turrets, but Effort not having a great time as he just tanks that one up. This explosive charge is going to do some work as teleports are now having to be used by KT.
There's a lot of meanwhiles that happening here. Bot lane Jace and Sejuani throw down the Rift Herald, but no minion wave to support it means that Untara still has turret HP. We can't see exactly the value, but doesn't end up being a massive value use of the Rift Herald.
Can't be a whole lot, but you can see the group up here from SKT might actually bite them as there's the ultimate coming out from Score. In goes Pawn, picks it up all too easily. Faker actually uses the package to escape, and that means that they lose their support and lose the inner turret.
And you see Janna also just ulting for health, actually ulting to keep them healthy as they keep rotating around. We're past 20 minutes, maybe almost on the dot, but things like Baron become more and more realistic. Blade the Ruin King 2-item Caitlyn means they do it at a pretty fast speed. They also return to mid lane. Faker's top lane, he's had enough of this. Doesn't feel like with a no front line they can do anything. The value of Infinity Edge Static Shiv is actually higher for KT than SKT because SKT are brittle. Nidalee, Braum, and Corki aren't going to be frontliners that can take autos, whereas there is the Sejuani Galio who can tank forever on the side of KT. We're going to watch the replay. Feels like another moment where Effort's rookie status is being taken advantage of. He walks too close into melee range. Why does he get auto-attacked by Score to allow this to start stacking up with the concussive blows? unnecessary, but a bit of nerves, a bit of rookie status, and a bit of advantage to KT.
Yeah, KT looking brilliant. I sort of want to go back to the scaling point as well, Papa Smithy, because you can see in the item build coming out of Mata, he's building towards the Ardent Sensor. He's already being able to buff Deft with the Eye of the Storm, adding that extra BF sort of damage. So we're talking about, you know, Caitlyn needing to scale for longer, but does have these other options that are going to be there extraordinarily soon. Already the shield was available, so having the crit damage and having the extra attack speed, so great. And then he's going to get charged up even more when that Ardent Sensor does come in. This is a get behind the Caitlyn type composition with, like you say, that incredible front line.
And imagine the attack speed between 2 attack speed items and now large attack speed item in the Ardent Sensor. So it's a different take on the meta. We would have thought Redemption, right? You wouldn't even look once you saw a Forbidden Idol, but does look like, at least from the items, that it will be the Ardent Sensor in 2018. Cue the memes as we turn to the game. Also, Fiendish Codex for Galio. Excited to see what that turns into.
Oh, yeah.
Bit on the AP side. You can't get away with just being purely tanky as a Galio.
Does have his timepiece, so it might be a Zhonya's Hourglass to start off having a little bit of that physical defense, whilst being able to go golden as often as possible. That feels a little bit more meta. We've got an Ardent Sensor and the stopwatches. Oh, feels brilliant. The perfect marriage.
Everyone's pushing up. Galio pushing Corki. Top side, Jace pressuring Gnar as expected.
A 1-3-1 though, once again. I mean, it was Jin Air making it work earlier on today. Now it's KT making it look pretty good.
Okay, but think back. KT played a lot of this style last year, but where did it go wrong, Atlas? It was always they took a risk too far. Someone was too headstrong, got caught, and then you back away.
This time of the game as well.
Exactly. It's not inked yet. It still is the hypothetical. KT often give chances to be caught as they transition between lanes. For now, though, they're being pretty smart.
Yeah, half the health on this turret as Effort takes a hell of a lot of damage. Needs to be careful. Bit of a boop there onto Bang, but not going to take too much. And Effort is just copping abuse left, right, and center.
It's a thankless job playing Braum against this comp. It should be noted, but I have to also mention the small mistakes that he's made that have been very unfortunate in SKT trying to get a foothold back in this game. And if KT don't offer mistakes, they keep methodically taking turret after turret, breaking the base, tricky. But backing off to Baron and knowing there's going to be no real vision from SKT, that is the calculated move when you're in a scenario like this.
Yeah, and we've spent a day, you know, in our last 2 games talking about not a lot of siege opportunities. KT have got a hell of a lot of siege opportunities. And they've got Monsoon to stand back and pick up all of their health again if they do get poked out, things like this. Like, SKT do have a lot of poke options, but it's not really going to be as helpful when Deft is going to be back at full health and then shooting from such a range, especially when that rapid fire cannon comes in.
Always holding your breath a bit in scenarios like this where Jace has to go pick up the minion wave and back away. There's still some advanced vision for SKT, so there was some chances of a big initiation coming through. It probably has to be in Tara, so their initiation is not gold standard by any means. They don't have non-committal engage like the Sejuani ultimate, so it's not that easy for them to actually force, which is another reason why playing 3 lanes is smart from KT. But KT, if they follow historic trends, always open chances. Go for an aggressive back. Make some mistakes. Don't necessarily dot all the I's and cross all the T's. But keep pushing forward. No mistakes yet. It leads to a gold lead of around 6,500 gold pre-25 minutes.
You can see SKT, I mean, this is what they do so well. It's being able to continue having the vision available and the information available to them as well. If there's an opportunity to come back in this game, if KT let up at all, you know that SKT is going to be able to punish. That hasn't changed. You could see they had full information that Deft was going back. They know that Baron is not going to be taken, and SKT have an opportunity to move forward, move that ward line further up. We often talk about, you know, especially in KSV games, these teams are able to suffocate their opponents. I don't think I've ever seen SKT successfully suffocated out of a mid-game.
Sort of thing where if it happens, you really do a double take and wonder if you're watching reality or fiction. Has happened a handful of times in years.
Yeah.
Once a year is kind of when you see that sort of play against SKT. But it's a new year, and it is an SKT that came in with lower expectations after the roster change, not necessarily impressing fans who wondered where was Marn, where were the other stars, trusting in the process the way that SKT went. And we don't know the full story of how that will go. Maybe this will be Another new dawn for the side of SKT, but we're still early. Effort still needs time to find his confidence, to find his bearings. Blank finds Galio, and that's no fun.
No, especially not with this Zhonya's picked up. Another blasting rod there as well, so he's going for a void stuff. He's going to have some damage as Smeb needs to be very careful. His newly built Guardian Angel doesn't want to be procced as where are we going?
Well, smartly, Smeb went forward, which actually eluded the Corki.
Well, he's going to walk into them now as Antara and Faker actually just really playing the do-si-do. They want to set up this sick flank, but are they too late? As SKT taking a lot of damage, they have moved themselves away. That flank option not quite there because just couldn't quite get into position in time. That was almost the stars aligning, but just not quite.
Yeah, no value from the ultimate there. The Glacial Prison from Score was used, but to no avail. The moment they knew there were 2 threats behind them, like, wait, there's only 3, let's go for it. The Score wasn't able to make the initiation stick. So Gnar is bot lane pushing out. Mega Gnar now. We might see another attempt at engage.
Yeah, Ingo's Score. Rocket Jump now on cooldown here for Bang, but they're able to get a lot of free damage onto this turret. You know, Deft does have that Ardent Sensor available to him. Effort once again getting abused underneath this turret. They've got the trap line. Bang, though, is making these spears hurt. So KT will have to back away.
Jace is on a ward in the mid lane. He won't know about that, but this is what we've seen the Monsoon used for. In every other scenario, it's just a top-up. They want to continue with the pressure.
Yeah, charging back in. There's the Permafrost down onto Effort. Ingo's Pawn wants to find the taunt onto as many members as possible. Goes golden with the Zhonyas as Ingo Smeb frontlining on the Jace because he's got the heroic entrance for the protection. They get 1 pick, and does this mean Baron?
I mean, it definitely seems to in the minds of KT. They're walking over a control ward, so it guarantees to SKT this is what's happening. You don't need advanced vision when you see that. No way for Effort to get there, but still going to be 4 damage dealers. So a risk here, teleporting onto a ward, but they're also able to spot.
Oh, Spooky Ghosts really paying dividends.
Mata gets chunked by a max range spear.
Zara has to be careful, but that Narbar is charging up. Faker gets chunked out, successfully escapes. Score taking a lot of damage on his way out. This is a game of cat and mouse, but this time you don't have Smeb flashing stupidly or anything like that. It's KT playing reserved, playing together, knowing that they can't bite off too much and more than they can chew.
Because they hadn't swept the ward, KT don't get an advantage from chunking out. If Effort dies, they don't return to the low health turret, they don't get Baron, they don't get further picks. Spotted there by the sweeping lens by Effort. They just want to kill him again.
Yeah, the ultimate does come out. Pawn gets the Justice Punch at exactly the right time. Def just throwing attacks into this Braum, who survived for so long, doesn't get that last crit, and now SKT looking to follow up. They've chunked out these super tanks on the side of KT. Oh, it still just feels on such a knife's edge. You can see the gold so far in favor of KT, 7,000 or something of the like, but they're still playing so reserved, so scared of what SKT can do in these mid-games.
They're doing Baron with their junglers showing. SKT's not going to fall for this. Baron down to 6,000, but you do see the Pawn is very low.
Yep, and KT getting themselves into a 50-50 situation. They've been here before, and it has bitten them. They're not going to do it again. Mata looking to go back, wants to refill that Eye of the Watcher.
6,000 gold lead has kind of been the number for a while now. It's now not necessarily as big a deal as it was 10 minutes ago. Nothing has happened positive for KT outside of a single pick onto Effort, and they couldn't kill him again the second time, tanking enough with just 2 items, just with the Locket really being his big purchase after the Sightstone. So they back away. They don't necessarily over-pursue, but you need to keep growing your gold lead. We have to remind the viewers of this. BBQ thought they were in an unlosable position against BBQ in match 2 yesterday, and then were just taken down the late game by double 80 carry. The double 80 carry is adding on item after item. Every back they add to their core, they get closer to 6 items, and a 6-item team fight, you look to SKT to likely win it.
And you can see that Deft actually agrees with you, Papa Smithy. He doesn't want this game to go too much longer. He's got the GA to make sure that the next team fight, he's going to be able to jump back up again. He's going to survive. He's not going to get picked. They're looking for these traps. They're looking for the bait and switch play. Unbreakable, of course, going to eat that ultimate.
I mean, it's not easy to actually use the initiation they have. Sejuani can be QSS'd or can be dodged, and Sejuani needs to be there as a conduit to Galio to initiate. It's really only Sejuani to enable the hero's entrance to be offensive. You're not expecting any sort of actual initiation from SKT. So advancing their position after the easy objectives, which here represent a 6-0 turret lead. A lot of the gold is the 6 turrets to 0, is difficult because Effort and the rest of SKT are not dying to 4 Caitlyn auto attacks like they were earlier in the game.
Yeah. It's just a frightening situation. You know that SKT capable of taking these games long. The ultimate comes in. Effort, though, Unbreakable's there. Should be able to survive this one out. And Pawn not going to be able to find any taunts. Score chunked again. Does have the Warmogs. Will be able to keep himself alive. It's going to slowly but surely get him all the way back up to full health. And the pings once again onto the Baron.
If you're SKT right now, the rallying calls start. We're in a better spot. We've managed to bring it back. That's what they'll be saying. Something like a Baron rewrites that. We see the Baron started here. You see Deft. They put 2 and 2 together. Cannot complete the Baron. They just turn on to Deft.
Yeah, heroic entrance is going to be there, though. Blank jumps all the way forward, but he's going to be taken out. That's the jungler. And KT now feels so much better taking this big purple monster.
And that's why you go for the Guardian Angel. You didn't notice a flash or a heal coming out. They were happy to power it down. All right, Score, the smite's escaped you before. You need to hit it here.
This would be one hell of a steal if they do it without the smite, but he's going to be able to get it. Score in his 400th game, locks down the Baron. They kill Effort again. Buster Shot should be the disengage that SKT were looking for, but a teleport's going to come in on Tara. He's running for the hills, but he's not running to his inhibitor turrets that should be taking a shellacking now with the newly invented Baron on the side of KT. The base is broken.
How much will KT try to take here? They won't try to end the game. Death time is still very long, but they can get 2 inhibitors at a minimum.
Oh, yeah. That's the teleport back as well for Smeb. He had his Guardian Angel for quite some time. Tara, Mega Gnar is going to be here. Score might be taking a little bit too much damage. KT probably wanting to get themselves out now, but they successfully will do so. What a brilliant engagement, using the tasty 80 carry over the wall to bait them in.
And the best engagement is one that doesn't actually require you to hit a skill shot. In the end, like you say, Deft looked too damn tasty for the side of SKT. This is after the fact. We're going to watch the replay. The smite, just enough. Level 14 there, enough to secure it at 729. Good stuff there, Score. Needed to pull that one off. That went away. The hearts would have definitely taken a couple of notches lower if you were KT Rolster. But what we missed there was Deft. With his Relic Shield upgraded, had the shield there, with the Guardian Angel. For once, SKT thought they had the drop. They thought they saw what now feels like the trademark KT overextension. It was turned around on them. And now KT is even just a couple of picks, not even a team fight, but a couple of picks away from just ending the game.
And so interesting here. You can see Deft immediately sells the GA and picks up the Mercurial Scimitar. Still wants to hold on to that Relic Shield for the sustain.
You know what the best thing about that is? The GA was a confident, let's end the game soon. Selling the GA is a more confident, let's end the game before I even would have value out of the GA.
Yeah. Just genius. It's like they had that play sort of in the playbook. Sitting backstage and saying, like, look, we've got these options, these options, these options.
They got a turret that's already pretty low. That's an easy option.
Oh, hell yeah. Take that one down. The last remaining inhibitor now under fire. SKT on the ropes. It's exactly what Jin Air were feeling. The end of that gigantic game that we witnessed a few nights earlier.
All right, 3 waves of super minions propped up by another minute of Baron. Should happen here. They have Caitlyn. Should be straightforward. Let's see if KT can end.
Yep, Redemption comes in. Marta goes back up to basically full health. Deft is tanking up the turret. He wants to keep his minions alive by the looks of things. And these Nexus turrets not long for the world now. An exposed Nexus. XKT on the ropes. A game #1 that KT have done in the past. Nexus is under fire, but it's the battle that we're looking at. Deft picks up one. We've got low health bars, and Smeb's just fighting Faker. The flash comes out. The minions are going to be enough, and the Nexus falls. KT, 9-1. Dominant early game, dominant mid game, and had all of the plays prepared this time. Nothing going to their head.
I mean, KT Rolster rolled the dice, but they rolled high. They needed 2 6s. They got pretty damn close. Atlas in the early game with this Galio, who wasn't going full AP. They saw what the Rocks Tigers did yesterday, and maybe they even had the strategy earlier, because they once again said, what got us those wins last year? It was proactivity. It was the Galio, papering over any mistakes you make with the hero's entrance, allowing them to rotate first. and Nidalee basically spent the entire game watching from the brush as action happened around her. The Nidalee draft was exploited by the last rotation Galio on blue side, and it feels like the Galio now needs to be respected by any of those old offenders that played it when it was out of whack last year. SKT surprised by KT Rolster, but I'm surprised that KT were largely pretty clean in this game, Atlas.
Yeah.
The one time it looked like one of those classic KT mistakes, it was Def just saying, I have Guardian Angel, a Galio, and the confidence of my Janna. We'll turn it around. And turn it around they did.
Just stunning. I mean, most of the time you see those situations, and I don't blame you. If you're sitting there at home and you're like, oh no, Deft is shooting over the wall. He's not going to be able to net himself into the pit in time.
Right?
Spotted by the spooky ghosts that come round the corner. And as a KT fan, we're used to this. But guys, we are going to go to a short break. When we get back, game number 2 of the Telecom War. Welcome back, OGN Legion, to Seoul East Stadium. It is game number 2 time between KT and SKT. But let's have a look back. Def did a bit of damage in game 1, and it was a get behind the Caitlyn composition. They certainly got behind the Caitlyn.
That was one of the ye old 48+% team damage Deft performances, but he was set up for it, like you say, Atlas. It was all about Caitlyn with all the shields, an ardent sensor, a blast from the past in 2018, even from the Janna. They had one mind, but Deft performed, as did KT Rolster, and that's in spite of a level 1 brain explosion by Smeb and Score.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. From there, it was a Cloud Drake away from a perfect game post the level 1 shenanigans. So, great stuff from KT Rolster. We know better than to anoint anyone the winners of the Telecom War until that 3rd and final Nexus falls. Seems to always go 3 games. 2 would be a surprise. Your MVP, predictably, is Deft. PvE League of Legends. Teleport very early back with the unsealed spellbook, and only one mind to explode those turrets.
And the unsealed spellbook opens so many doors as well for keeping the pressure on with this Caitlyn in the early game. Deft moves up to equal 2nd position alongside Raze and Ambition.
Good luck catching Teddy.
Yeah, well, exactly. And you're the guy that you get behind every single game.
It does feel like unsealed spellbook is now one of the few ways to actually innovate between the champion select and the game starting. Counter picks, you know, there's that extra time to adjust your rune page and make some more changes. But whether you take unsealed spellbook or not, just changes everything. You know, the first person that took it was Prey on the Sivir, and now it's standard on Sivir, but on Caitlyn, it's a new thing, and it seemed to surprise the flow of the bot lane for SKT. Bang and Effort never got into any sort of rhythm. I'm very interested to see whether we'll see Wolf actually sub into the support role. If you look at his solo queue account, it's almost exclusively jungle, but we of course know he has so many hundreds of competitive games on the support role. They should be able to get there comfortably. But where's the mind space at? Who's playing jungle? Who's playing support? It seems like the SKT game of musical chairs will continue to turn.
And I absolutely love this. What we were watching just then, where it went from that Baron pick-off attempt onto Deft to the end of the game, because that basically was the play that gave it to KT. And yes, there are a few kills. Yes, it was getting behind Deft and watching him do all of the damage, but it was that orchestrated moment that really is the clincher of what that game 1 was, because of what we know. And this music tells us that there will be a sub. See whether it is the predictable Wolf's going to come in somewhere sub, or whether it is going to be Tal making his way in, and it is. So Antara hopping out of the top lane, Tal moves in.
And sadly, what that means confidence-wise for SKT and Antara is, well, we gave you your Gnar and you couldn't find a victory. 3 victories and no losses previous, now 3-1. Tal played in the 94-minute Fiesta against Jinair. Looked decent, but didn't look better than Antara on the Gnar. His name, Tuhal, in Hangul, means to lock in Trundle, known as a very prominent Trundle player. If you look in solo queue, he's playing the GP, he's playing the Vladimir, he's even got a pocket Nasus that he breaks up in some specific ways we'll talk about if we actually see those criteria open up in the draft. But man, think about who's in this roster. We have to take a step back and appreciate it is a best of 3, but in game 2, potentially the ending game of this best of 3, they're fielding Effort, a 17-year-old, 2-month substitute AD, support that seems to be their support, and now their substitute top laner. There's very little experience short of Faker and specifically Bang, but also Blank to a degree on the side of SKT.
But Blank hasn't often been the starter. We were going over it, you know, it was always Peanut that started for SKT when they were successful against KT. Earlier on, it's not Blank doing the download. Now we're going to head into game 2 and he's going to change it all. It's a different SKT this time around. But Tal, will he be able to offer what we think he might be able to with these change-up of picks?
SKT on the blue side now, still not dealing with any of this Cogmore nonsense from Deft.
Yep, no more shenanigans. We'll see whether the AD carry slot is going to be looked at heavily by both of these teams, but no Sejuani first pick, says KT.
Yeah, there's an unbelievable amount of AD carry bans in the first round. You know, sometimes we see them kind of snowball into the second round if no AD carries are taken, but it was just AD carry ban after AD carry ban. It allowed KT to first pick the Sejuani, and level 1 Gaff aside was very strong for KT with the Fleet Footwork Sejuani, a different style from Score. So we're going to be seeing those AD carry bans, and you got to love the wry smile from the usually pretty quiet Deft.
And if we can all remember, You know, back when Deft was in China, the classic pastry time Deft what the heck moment where he picked up a pentakill.
On Sivir.
On Sivir, exactly. I mean, there was relevance to my story.
That was Game 5 of the series against LGD. Very, very famous game that Pastry Time and I cast many moons ago. Now we leave that particular region. I find myself here in Korea, and I find myself in 2018 seeing a Galio ban.
Yeah, Galio ban against Pawn. Wasn't really a way that SKT could find to punish it. You have to admit, the gank combination of Nidalee and Corki isn't a lot of CC, so they didn't really have too many options to lock down the tanky monster.
Okay.
But speaking of monsters, Tahm Kench to take the final ban slot.
Let's talk about what's left up. Kalista is left up, a very famous pick for Bang.
Yeah.
But also Varus is left up, so you see Tahm Kench banned away. Varus Braum is almost 100% going to be the lock on red side. It almost feels like if we do see the Kalista locked in and Bang is having second thoughts, we could see Kalista Thresh versus the Braum and the Varus. It feels like we already know the bot lane matchup, but does also mean other prized picks are left open. KT, they take the Rise very early.
Yeah, and of course, no opportunities to pick up any other AD carries. Not going to be able to deny Deft, so it is the support position that's being considered here for KT. Marta pretty vocal. You can see he's not actually giggling. Looking at this Leona pickup could actually be something that they're serious about.
Interesting they're going to hold the Braum. They're actually going to take the Varus and look for more information.
Yeah,
will that information mean the long delayed debut of Faker on Zoe is available in the first round, will probably be banned in the second round? Will we finally see it, Atlas? Faker had a good game, but unfortunately his teammates couldn't hold up to his end of the bargain. Oh, Faker draft here.
The Azir is another option.
Sure.
Was going to say it. Now it's insta-locked for Faker. We've seen what he's done when he is Rise against the Azir, but we've seen Azirs be able to poke out the Rise as well if they're not at that level of play. This is going to be one hell of a matchup because Pawn's been playing Rise forever as well.
And it's also a pick that recently feels Rise favored in the Azir matchup because of the ability to skip over the Rod of Ages and go for the more Abyssal Mask, the more tanky side of the equation. Could just be lane bully status. Yep, is confirmed lane bully status for Smeb here on the Gnar. So interesting to see what Tal's pick will be on the blue side, given that his only competitive game so far, at least in the LCK, has been on Gnar.
Yeah, a bit of a no-brainer. We talk about the Rise Gnar in almost every single matchup because it seems to be pretty prioritized.
Should also talk about Tal a little bit, given that a lot of people are tuning in for this match.
Yeah.
Was, of course, son of Kasing in EU solo queue, played on Red Bulls. Same team that Kasing played on in the Challenger Series. Looked like a carry, but predictably with these young Korean players going overseas, never really got the communication issues out of the way. So while he has some spotty experience, certainly not Telecom War Fire experience like he'll need here. So a big ask for him. See the Camille banned away. That's actually a flex pick for SKT. Even recently, we've seen Blank play a lot of the Camille jungle. Nidalee Camille were his two biggest picks in the jungle role. Rengar was the next one, so very well could see the Rengar from SKT.
Kha'Zix, another option here as well. Score, of course, lifetime, phenomenal Kha'Zix player. 77% win rate, something like that, sitting on about a 5.6 KDA on the champion of all time across 22 games. Two of those games this season, though, Papa Smithy, and they were both losses.
We did see the Alistar for a moment. Soraka would again be a crazy one. You don't really see too much backline threat short of the ultimate from Kalista at this point, but let's see if there's fishing for information. We've seen a lot of mind games so far from the side of KT. A Soraka would be surprising. The Alistar would be classic Mata.
Absolutely, and this is what I wanted in game number one. I wanted every game that I see any of these supports that have been known for their Alistar play. We were treated to Gorilla earlier. We were treated to Wraith as well in the series before.
It's unsealed.
Oh, we're going to have double Spellbook bottom lane, most likely.
We have double AP too, if it's going to be the Vladimir lock-in here. Vladimir does not win the matchup against Gnar in any significant way. We only have one game of recent evidence, but it was actually the Gnar making the winning side of the matchup. Spectre's Cal into Black Cleaver, and a long enough lane, you can actually, with Hyper, burst down, burst is a strong word, but take down a Vladimir.
Oh, I really like this. If this is where Blank is going to go on the J4, his last performance didn't actually die on the champion, is one of those tanky frontline threats, can build really strong, but also has the presence in the early game. The other option obviously was the Zac, decides not to go for it.
And Zac could be the final pick here for KT if they feel good enough about the lanes. The question is, can they afford to go for a Zac or a Shyvana, which would be another choice that's possible The lanings are strong from KT, but drafting Shyvana in pro play is still pretty unexplored. We know the power of the champion in solo queue when you can go for a red smite and kill people with the press the attack, but it's probably going to have to be a bit more measured from Score, and he looks at the lanes and feels strong enough to go for the Shyvana. Still a risk, though. Interesting drafts here from KT and SKT, as seems like we're going to have a little bit of a delay, maybe a remake coming through here of the lobby, but we know the champions, so all the information is out there for you, OGN Legion.
Got absolutely everything. Do not worry. Looked like Deft and Mata were potentially unable to swap their champions around.
Getting the confirmation from Joel that there will be a remake. The lobby froze, so it seems like no one's getting a penalty. I guess we should mention, because of what we saw earlier in the week, actually last week, Crown disconnecting from the lobby early, that was deemed intentional, and KSV actually drew a penalty from that. So that means if they do anything like show up to the studio late or anything else that incurs a penalty, they'll actually lose a match point. In this case, it's deemed a bug, so from what we understand, there will be no penalty laid to either the feet of KT or SKT.
Yeah. Does mean that we've got a little bit more time to talk about this draft as well, Papa Smithy.
I love it.
Having Score on the Shyvana, I do actually have his stats up here, so I haven't actually seen much of his Shyvana, and in fact, I have never seen it in pro play because no one's ever seen it in pro play, Papa Smithy.
I'll be able to double check that on my stats database, but sounds right. Shyvana jungle, you know, was a thing. You think back to what, season 2, right?
Yeah.
When Gambit Gaming was running around.
Moscow 5.
Then Moscow 5. Shyvana top also a thing, and Shyvana's been so edge of the meta and basically a non-factor for kind of Score's entire lifetime as a jungler. Only debuted as a jungler in 2015. And it does sound right that it'll be his first visit on the champion. Definitely low lane impact, but they feel good about Ryze versus Azir. They actually feel surprisingly good about Nara against Vladimir, because it seems like that matchup is either equal or maybe even slightly Nara favored, and the laning phase in bot lane is not going to be too much of a headache on paper. The on paper worked for KT in game 1. We don't know the reliability of it. Bank getting his little battle yawn out of the way for now, but the fire will certainly hit the rift soon.
And also getting the pep talk from Coma as well. You often see him over at Bang's chair, just making sure that he gets in the mindset, and I understand it because this is not one of those games where Bang is sitting on one of those lower tier champions. Bang has been known to be an extraordinary Kalista player, and this is one of those times where he is given all of the power. We've got the coveted picks. The Varus, extraordinarily high up there with his abuse of the Rage Blade, and Kalista certainly being looked at as one of those at the same time. We're looking much closer to getting into the game.
Bang is 30-4 in his career. 30 wins, 4 losses on Kalista. Was undefeated for his first 25-plus games. It's been a pick for him, but recently he's prioritized things like Ezreal above it. Ezreal not available here. Lot of intriguing matchups. On paper, seems like KT should be happy, and the Shyvana mid to late game, only Spirit has really unlocked. Game 2 of a Telecom war. We've never had a 2-0 for KT with their current lineup since the start of 2017. They've never even won a best-of series, Atlas.
And this roster hasn't even got a 2-0 at all. Either way in this matchup, we're always going to game 3, so we'll see whether it happens again, ladies and gentlemen, as we head to the Rift for game 2. Oof. SKT fans certainly showing up. We're in a packed Soli Stadium right here, Papa Smithy. Everyone wanting to check out the Telecom war.
Yeah, whether they're first or last, the KT and SKT fans will always come to deem who is the victor between these two famous companies. If you're new to the Telecom war, KT and SKT are the two primary mobile phone carriers here, so Verizon versus AT&T. If you're an American, you understand that this is definitely high stakes. These teams are both very well supported, very well paid, superstars everywhere. But SKT.
And also for Australians, of course, Optus versus Telstra. You know, we got to help them out.
Where were you on the side of Optus versus Telstra?
Well, I mean, custom support-wise, it's all about Optus, but as far as coverage, you have to go with Telstra.
I'm just saying, which side were you on?
Telstra.
There you go. I was a Telstra man too. I guess we're biased.
Yeah, there we go. But we're not biased when it comes to SKT versus KT. Both of us, KT Internet, and we have SKT telephone service. So
I was stipulated by Riot Games, so we had to do that. Just kidding.
If only. That would have been going a little bit too deep. That is going to be the red buff leash, though, coming out for SKT.
The man on your screen a moment ago, that man Blank that you're mentioning, is kind of the game breaker here, because we're saying, oh, all the lanes look pretty good, and we know how scary Shyvana is if she shows up with a Devourer and a Frozen Mallet without too much action happening. The lanes are looking decent. Outside of a moment of brilliance from a man like Faker, it feels like the jungler is that great unknown variable that always messes up the scientific equation that is team comps on paper. So let's see what things Blank can make happen. He was a bit of a voyeur, just kind of watching on as KT dominated at Game 1. Needs to be more active in Game 2 to give his team something to work with.
Well, upon hits level 2, you can see already Faker is dominating this lane. We had a feeling that maybe he'd be able to navigate this early game quite well because he knows the other side of the matchup so exquisitely. 4 games already on the rise so far in the LCK. We haven't seen a lot of Faker's Azir, though. Of course, haven't seen it this season, and of course was out of the meta in the last season. Has historically played it to such great effect, but it's been a while.
It was a pretty big meme back when Azir was really center of the meta, which I'm thinking back to 2015, that, you know, Faker wasn't even the best Azir on his team. Back when
there was a certain Hoon,
Easy Hoon, one of his small effective champion pool, was the Azir, but the thing about Faker's Azir that people miss is that actually, when you look at his win rate on the champion, predictably in a team that's done well, he's actually always been very capable on it. And if he didn't have the single champion mastery that necessarily Easy Hoon had, he was always impressive in his own right on the Azir. So certainly someone who can play-make. They have a lot of playmaking options now for SKT. Even if you see Vladimir come in from the flank, the 10% damage amp on a beautiful Azir sec play might be enough to just ravage KT. So no guarantees, even with the draft. Looking pretty good for KT Rolster.
Well, speaking of looking pretty good, SKT are able to look and see that the Gromp hasn't been taken just yet. You can see Score heading back down, grabbing the Wolves before picking that one up. And they will have eyes on the Shyvana.
Ada doesn't go for Unsealed Spellbook, so we'll not be going for what seems like the flavor of the month rune onto the Alistar that was made famous by Ming over in the LPL. This has Ignite, so certainly has a lot of all-in power with the Aftershock proc and Ignite. And maybe just wants to prey upon effort and surprise him with early damage.
See, thankfully Bang wearing his own skin on the Kalista.
At least someone on SKT will use their own skin.
Yeah, exactly. Faker disappointing us every single time.
Certainly won't be using Easy Hoon's Azir skin.
Although that would have been the best troll. The man that never uses a skin when it's not even his for his team. Perfect. Doesn't quite have that sense of humor, though.
Only take delight in winning.
Yeah.
Which is usually the mark of a real champion. And like you say, he's in luck. He's won a lot.
He certainly has. Not as much recently, though. Wants to get back to that point. Saw a big smile on his face, actually, before game number 1. Pawn able to throw a bit of harassment on top of him, though. Teleport going to be utilized. Blank heading back. The Unsealed Spellbook allowing Pawn to stay in this lane quite well. And a decent back timing with the tier picked up alongside the Ruby Crystal, so we'll be a little bit more healthy.
Abyssal Mask heavily expected here to be able to just withstand the lane, and then Shyvana has good magic damage, a little bit of hyper from the Gnar, but also Varus is heavily expected to go for the Rage Blade and have his own magic damage as well, so a lot of value from the Abyssal Mask passive, along with the laning stats it'll give him.
Abuse onto Pawn here in the mid lane, as you can see. Headbutt Pole lands down onto Bang. Unbreakable a little bit late to block that hail of arrows.
Seems like Deft is just Unsealed Spellbook on every AD carry. Found a new favorite rune.
I think so.
It's already been more successful than his attempt at a new summoner in the Teleport Jace he tried.
Well, exactly. I was about to mention that one as well. That was a long time ago, digging back into the history books, but that was an abundantly clear misplay.
If we're going to go through the history books to find things to praise, we have to also go through the history books and laugh a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. We haven't spoken about Mata and his support options, and we'll save that if we get some extra downtime, because that one's a little bit more of a storied history. But so far, the bottom lane, not as explosive, certainly not as one-sided as we saw in game number 1, which is a good news story for SKT. The more even these lanes are, the better it is for Blank on this J4. Because the Shyvana not going to be doing a lot of work ganking early.
If it just keeps going even, if no one's dying, still pretty good times for KT as Mata takes too much free damage.
Yeah.
Again, ceteris paribus, or other things being equal, Shyvana getting a free jungling phase to just farm up. Doesn't have a farm leader, but camping a little bit behind. But Shyvana just getting a free jungle, press the attack, heavily expecting Score to go Frozen Mallet second. If 2-item Shyvana isn't punished, and short of Jarvan's CC, you just can't really emulate the teamfight damage and presence of a Shyvana.
Yeah, feels like a top laner, to be honest. Half the time, she'll do more damage than your top laner, unless it's something like a Jace, and probably should do more than Smith. Some of these team fights. But we'll also see a lot more priority on that dragon as well. Getting those permanent stacks, making sure Scores as powered up as possible, see whether he heads down there. He's level 6, Blank also level 6.
It's just nice to see KT responding in draft, because there was definitely a long time in spring especially where KT knew how to draft strong for their style, right? They knew what a winning KT comp would look like, but sometimes they were a bit tone deaf for what the enemy was running. I think of the Talon top when they kind of over-pursued on win lane, win game, and no other way to take down a team like SKT. This time, they see strong lanes, and there is the latitude for a Zac or a Shyvana without just losing lanes and then the Shyvana getting invading and never getting going. So for a time to pick Shyvana, it's a pretty good one. Whether Shyvana will be effective or not, that much is still to be decided.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have the Blood Razor, so finishes off the recurve bow. It's finally ahead in farm as Blank is going to hand over this blue buff. Blue spawning a little bit later here for KT as Pawn could potentially teleport back, but actually decides not to. Utilizes the fact that Faker had to go and collect his blue, doesn't actually shove the wave, and so Pawn with that summoner spell available, meaning that KT do have global options here in the earlier stages of the game.
Blank's pathing through mid lane isn't spotted by the control ward that was placed. Pawn's actually playing towards the area that Faker has vision supremacy.
Yeah, but he is going to get shoved back. Pawn uses his stopwatch and gets under the turret. That was swift thinking from Pawn.
Even brings the minion wave back. Feels good,
Yeah.
man. As Score, if he's face checked, can actually do insane damage to Blank, but he's just waiting, lying in wait.
Oh, Sand Soldier putting in there.
That was so heads up by Faker. That's the one area that wasn't being scouted by Blank, and he even gives him coverage there. So smart move from the mid laner. No surprise for Faker.
Piercing arrow coming in. You can see Deft here has actually got a stopwatch as well. Stopwatches are plenty on the bottom side of the map, apart from effort. He's decided not to go for it.
Now, they do have the earlier push, so they're happy to push in. Smite.
Oh, look at that score. So much better. You get that auto attack reset, he can pick up the smites like nobody's business.
I mean, on this day, 2 out of 2 reward, but the fact that Score is smiting it and gets almost no value from blue buff is
probably not
still a win for SKT.
Didn't want to go into that, Smithy. You got to shout out.
We don't
Score
tell
whenever
half
he...
stories over here. No half truths, only full truths here, Atlas. We're Mythbusters.
It's his 401st game.
Just keep the fake news away, please.
Okay, Blank's going to clear out some vision. SKT understanding that having vision available around the dragon is certainly a good idea when there is a dragon on the enemy team.
Lore appropriate. Nice control ward on the enemy red buff. They're hoping won't be scouted. Gives them ideas of which quadrant. And look at that. Look at these 2 wards. I love the control ward on the red buff. They have vision of the Raptors and also vision. Basically, there's no entrance for Score to enter his own jungle and not be spotted. So wherever Jarvan is, he'll have a very good idea of knowing which side of the jungle that Score is on. And now that he doesn't see him on any of the wards, he should probably feel that maybe even some of his own camps are going to be at risk.
Yeah, Score actually making his way over through the vision as well, which is useful. You can see so much forward vision effort.
The blue
also
ping,
adding
that's really cool.
Bottom side.
So the blue ping was actually onto the Rift Herald because one of the few places they can't see. So now where Score is, he's ruining the jungle, Blank.
Actually denies that little wolf. Haven't seen a lot of denial
And
recently.
it's the famous Moscow 5 skin as well.
Yeah.
That was the one that both Darian and also
yeah.
Diamond Procs were using.
I liked the bone one a little bit more. Of course, both of them looking brilliant. Okay, Rune Prison down on a Faker, but it is Pawn that's taking the poor end of this trade. And they were right, to a certain extent, Papa Smithy, because it will be Score taking the Rift Herald after destroying the jungle, like you mentioned, with Blank. There's Tal, Smeb going so aggressive.
Those matchups where I think people have misread how Vladimir does this, but it's fine, but not great.
Oh, don't want to face check Score.
Yep, press the attack. You guys are wondering why Shyvana's so prized. she's the best and really only user in competitive play of press the attack. The ability to instantly proc it means the damage jungler that brings almost no CC can auto Q, and then every bit of damage from burnout and everything after that is proccing the extra 12% damage that press the attack gives you. People thought it would be press the attack Vayne, but how many trades are actually 6 to 9 auto attacks in lane? Almost none. One is Shyvana, instant proc into the rest of her kit, doing huge damage, means the press the attack works very well for her.
Yeah, and now gonna do a whole bunch of work taking down this Rift Herald as well, because Blood Raise is completed. You can see Score's damage has sort of exploded at this stage. Once you grab that first jungle item, and you were talking about having to deny the Shyvana, they will deny her the first Cloud Drake of the game. So it will be the more valuable, I guess, overall objective in the Rift Herald, but Cloud Drake going to be picked up and the Dragon denied. KT?
You definitely feel good denying Drakes away from a Shyvana. Lose that 5 armor and magic resist for every kill, but, you know, Rift Herald is definitely more prized than a single Cloud Drake, and it's going to be Ocean next, so KT are actually going to be afforded the latitude to maybe play away from the Dragon and not necessarily just play bottom side. There's no mountains or infernals to occupy their mind.
Oh, Mata making his way in. Of course, Mata and Gorilla probably most known for their abilities to get around the map on Alistar. Sort of share that particular characteristic. Mata using it a little bit more to get vision down, because that's of course his MO, but both of them certainly knowing where to be at the right times.
I mean, we sat here.
Gets himself out.
Yeah, we sat here pre-game and we looked at Mata's champions he's played so far this season, Braum, Tahm Kench, and Taric, and both of us said, would love to see a playmaker from him. You know,
yeah.
Mata, of course, can play disengaged support, but made his name on Alistar and Thresh especially, so really nice to see him on a champion with engage options after so far just being a disengage god, as vision has been good from SKT. They know which side of the jungle that the Shyvana is on, but the camp respawn timers would have told them that, and now they don't have the same sort of coverage on the top side. So apart from knowing where he started, Shyvana's fast, Shyvana's going to keep roaming, and they no longer have tabs on score.
Yeah, feels like KT have made it through this early game extraordinarily well. 200 gold is the lead here for KT Rolster. And SKT not punishing it. Of course, they do have a composition that scales beautifully well. Think about the AoE potential of this comp. You add Hemoplague, amplifying all damage that's coming in. Bang's going to be sticking his little sticks into multiple people after that 2-item spike comes in with the Hurricane. And then you've got Faker, Sand Soldiers. They're just happy to stab in directions, Pub Smithy. They'll do damage to everyone.
It does feel like Faker holds all the trump cards. 2 consistent damage threats between the Azir. Listen, honestly, Vladimir, once he gets 5 points into Tides of Blood, also falls in that category. A lot of consistent damage, but also, you know, the transfer could just be blown away by a dive from Shyvana. So Faker's use of the Emperor's Divide, I think, will be the really big treat in team fights. He can deny a lot of what KT's setting up, short of, say, a huge flank coming through from Smev. He kind of has the tools to carry a game, which is always scary. It's why something like Azir fits him like a glove, because of the carry potential. There's no guarantees about any of that.
The thing that I'm excited about is what KT is going to do around Baron towards the mid to late game. Looking in about 10 minutes from now, you can see Rift Herald is going to be flying forward, but we're still at only 15 minutes into the game, because Realm Walk plus Shyvana plus Deft on this attack speed based, potentially Blade of the Ruin King building Varus is an option, but the Cataclysm goes down on the bottom side. Deft is in trouble. We've got Unbreakable Will. Deft holds onto the flash and the heal for a long time. Mata, he's going to get out, but he doesn't have the ult anymore. That's 4 members of SKT. Mata will waste their time, exactly. But 4 will be able to grab it. But look at Smeb and Score. They'll take 2 turrets in trade for this.
Yeah, I don't know if Toll should have actually teleported out of this lane, because it guarantees that 2 turrets would go down. It was very telegraphed by SKT. Put down the deep ward, the summer special that we saw basically every game of LCK summer. But losing 2 turrets in an instant, Atlas, this is the sort of game where that is actually going to be a double whammy, because whenever you have an extremely long lane, 2 turrets down in a side lane this early against Ryze, the Ryze push-up vision into Realm onto Baron becomes possible.
Well, Bond's actually looking for Faker. Emperor's Divide comes in, but here's the cavalry. Dragon's Descent flies forward. The flash after Faker. The Realm Walk to make sure that we've got a Rune Prison available. Flashes on top. Good double knockup from Blank, but it's all too late.
Very nice chase by KT. They knew their limits. They wanted to kill that MVP from the side of SKT. He's down. They push up Vision. No Baron to take too early in the game, but KT control the map again.
This is really scary if you're an SKT fan. KT are playing like they know exactly what their comp needs to do.
Yeah, chasing the Jarvan out of the jungle as they rotate members around. This is beautiful macro from KT. They get an advantage. They kill the Azir. The Emperor of Shurima is in the death chamber. They also chase out the jungler. No one's going to be slowing down this turret take. Third of the game for KT.
Yep, and Smeb shoved up that top lane means that he can now lie in wait, gatekeep on this bottom side. We've got a minute before the Ocean Drake comes up. Will then mean that 2 minutes after that, the Baron will be in contention. And Pawn, oh, he's even going to be able to get out when Blank finds him shopping.
Sleeping Giants, both KT and SKT after 2 games. We weren't sure about the strength of either.
Yeah.
We still are not 100% convinced by KT. There's been too many KT moments in their first 2 sets to really believe in KT and get excited about KT.
Oh, you even quoted it. I quoted it last time we saw them, but I feel like you're right. There's got to be a time when saying you're excited is okay.
The thing about KT here is that there really hasn't been the KT-esque mistake. This has been 1.5 games where they have looked more calculated, where they haven't made obvious one-man mistakes. We haven't seen all 5 of them fire, but we haven't seen any of them misfire. And for KT Rolster fans, that's at least a building block towards the high expectations they want to grow for this 5-man lineup.
Yep. The rush of blood to the head that we're just so used to expecting has not come in. SKT now lying in wait, trying to get that Cataclysm Hemo Plague Emperor's Divide combo working out for them, but none of the bait is being taken.
3 vision clearing is not there for Blank. That's why Blank's not going to try and clear that control ward. He saw the Alistair and backed away.
Yep, we got the wave being shoved out here from Smeb on the bottom side of the map. Both of these outer turrets have been taken, so that's a long lead that can be prepped by one of these top laners or anyone that can make their way down there.
Note that even though they have extensive control ward vision forward that's starting to be cleared in SKT's red side jungle, post 20 minutes, they're going to move all that vision to the blue side jungle and try that Realm Walk Baron. Baron can really be the icing on the cake for KT, but because they're only 18 minutes in, second Drake of the game would be nice.
Yep. Oh, well, Marta's going to be able to get in here. Dragon's Descent comes down, so score. Massive in the front line. Good disengage from SKT. There's a lot of buttons are being pressed, so no Glacial Fissure available, and bang, doesn't have his ultimate either.
Draw out the ultimate from Shyvana, who already hit her items very early, so Dragon not being available is another teamfight tool that KT are denied. Now SKT are going to keep cutting between threatening the mid lane and threatening this Drake. And they know that at least one big tool, and even the Varus ultimate as well, are down.
Oh, that was almost the Deft special with a potential face check. A lot of vision being available here as Deft standing in the back line, SKT regrouping. The thing that I absolutely love about this, Papa Smithy, if we do have an opportunity to talk about it, is the fact that if SKT try to deny this dragon, it's going to be so easy for that Realm Walk to be used and the Baron to be obliterated by KT. If they have the correct vision and the correct information on the side of KT.
Really big fight for effort. He desperately wants vision in that crevice towards. They see Rise on the top side as well. That means SKT know it's a 5v4 for now.
Yep, they're looking to start up this dragon, but look at what Smeb's able to do. Able to buy some space. Oh, the flash, not quite enough. Emperor's Divide will mean that Pawn's going to be in trouble. No more stopwatch, no more opportunities. Hemo Plague locks down Deft, and this is the SKT that we've been waiting to wake up. They grab the 2 picks, and this could mean Baron.
Yeah, they're going to definitely turn on to the Baron. Score is still alive, but with no flash, does have the ultimate available. They're turning on to that objective, waiting for that KT mistake. We see it there. They were spread too thin, trying too many different ideas for a flank. See Shyvana actually going to be trading Ocean for the Baron. Not a great trade, but they believe in SKT's ability to deny. Free Baron to SK Telecom T1.
That's incredibly impressive. SKT waiting patiently. We were talking about KT as far as having the options. Wasn't the case. KT walked into their trap, and of course, it's the man in the mid lane for SKT that set it all up. The Emperor's Divide, even a flash couldn't get Pawn out of the way.
So remember that Rise was seen topside, went into mid. They collapse on Rise. Shyvana's out of position. Nara's out of position. They're around the Drake. There's no way for them to get there. Pawn is too far advanced, and Faker's killer instinct ticks in, and then unfortunately Varus is trained down. The Alistair's caught with ultimate, doesn't matter, dies as well. It wasn't a huge invitation like we've seen from KT in the past, or even in their past 2 best-of-3s, but a big enough one anyway for the best player of all time to turn around this game.
Yeah. Now, what are SKT going to be able to use this Baron for is the question. Blank now is going to be clearing out some vision, but looks like a 1-2-1 setup with Blank floating seems to be some sort of the option.
Does allow them to get the map control. They've kind of been denied ever since they took the downward trade and gave up the 2 turrets in the top lane. Doesn't mean that they have to respect effort, though, as Smeth's going to keep walking up.
Yeah, Bang is going to be here, so maybe a little bit, but oh, this could be the face check. In trouble. Thankfully, the blast cone's there. Faker starts the onslaught of the turrets. Second one to go down for SKT this series.
Definitely not going to be an inhibitor breaking Baron, but it's going to be a map control and also turret equalizing Baron. All that SKT is looking for. They needed that Baron desperately. The foothold back in the game. Now they're looking stronger. We saw Blank having coverage for Faker taking the top lane turret. Hasn't been able to get near it because of all previous damage in the top lane, and mid lane's also going to go down.
Yep. Should be an easy outer ring being taken. Not sure whether they're going to be able to definitely grab these inner turrets, but Faker looking to try and get some poke damage down. Def gets out of the way of most of it as Score's trying to clear out what remains of his jungle.
So much threat onto Def. Remember, no flash Def, no flash pawn. And a Zircek play from Faker could just ice 2 kills if he gets the right time.
Yeah. You can see Pawn actually sold his broken stopwatch as well, so no Zhonya's to be coming from that particular Fiendish Codex. Slow onto Score as well. It's really hard to get on top, but the Ghost is actually drawn out. That does spell the end of the inner turret in the mid lane.
Yeah, big Baron buff power play when it comes to gold. Will not break the base, but the next time Teamfight victory happens, inhibitors go down, KT fall behind further. Such a big tempo swing we've seen in this game. Items looking strong as well. 2 items on Kalista and Azir. Both of them continue to power up. But Vladimir also showing good presence in the bot side after being able to get to the backline in the last fight. The reality of going for a no-escape carry against Vladimir is that someone can get the flank. The one time Vladimir does, able to assassinate Deft. And now KT Rolls can make no more mistakes. Maybe they've already made 1 mistake too many.
That's what it feels like, Papa Smithy. Have to say that that moment felt incredibly pivotal for SKT, and slowly but surely, Bang is getting to the point where he is going to be a complete monster. We were talking about Faker. It was about him in that play earlier, but what that's done is set up Bang for almost easy success as we move towards the later stages of the game. 1-0-2, but has those 2 items that you need and the QSS that Kalistas absolutely love. He's in a great spot.
Yeah, SKT's teamfight is much more of a known quantity than KT. KT needs to have a moment of brilliance, catch someone unawares to really pull off a true 5v5. If a fight just starts with Score jumping in, Azir, Kalista, Vladimir can play front to back and obliterate a front line very, very well. Best way to deal with SKT is to kite out the damage or find a pick, as we might have seen a pick here.
Yep, teleport does come in. Good flash, gets out of the way of the headbutt for Blank. They do get the summon a spell as Bang. He's going to turn up. Deft's here as well, though, so Smeb, he's not in any trouble, but Thal doesn't have teleport. He's got the Ghost on the bottom side with his spellbook, and he's going to look to push this one out. Means that KT has the man advantage, but not the confidence to try and take on SKT.
Yeah, the man advantage doesn't mean anything when you've only blown 1 flash. That's on the Jarvan, who can still face check and flag and drag away. And always back and get the teleport, swap it out for Ghost, such the flexibility of the unsealed spellbook. We just returned to normalcy. Another objective piles up for SKT. They now have a 6,000 gold lead.
Getting very scary if you're a KT fan. The early game looked so good. KT trying something new, giving Score all of the space, making sure that the lanes are able to control themselves. That one moment, that one juggle around the Baron to the Dragon. SKT just playing together better as a unit. Faker turning it on. Haven't seen too much from him in the last few minutes. It's been about 6. But when will the next play happen? Will it be KT looking for desperation, or will it be SKT just tearing down turrets like it looks like they're doing right now? No smab available, no teleport for him either, and 4 of them just watch as the turret falls down. There's a Cataclysm as Blank. The stopwatch is used, but he's in turret range. In goes Bang, and he's getting 3 shots. Score is going to be the first one down there under the turret. The 2-man Empress Divide, and these will be all of those Ren stats being torn out. Pawn's going to fall. It's It's a triple kill for the Kalista, but Smeb is massive, gets a brilliant wallop on top of Bang, but is it going to be enough? I don't think so. I think the base is still going to be broken.
Faker just overwhelms everyone. They see a time, Nar's not there, they dive it, and it works. Atlas, they're able to secure the kills. Can they actually end the game? 15 seconds on to score. First thought is no, but still, it feels like that's the last dagger through the heart needed to take down KT Rolster and force a game 3.
Yep, I feel like Smeb may have just saved them from losing the game right there. However, still looking so dire. And Blank, this almost looked like a ridiculous engagement, but it all pays off.
Yeah, he has the stopwatch. Toll has the ability to ghost down, and then they just turn it on. Smeb is in Mininar. They see that little bit of information. Smeb in the mid lane with Mininar. Ghost is popped. Faker goes in. Easy cleanup here on the side of SKT, and even a great 3-man Nar doesn't matter when there's no men behind you to capitalize on.
Yeah, and that was exactly what we were talking about as far as the Wombo combo that they have available to them. SKT is going to deny yet another dragon. It was at least the Ocean going to KT, but it's all bad news otherwise. And Hemoplague onto 4 members, and then all of them smashed down with the Emperor's Divide. Meanwhile, Bang able to get all of the work done that he wants to. 4-1 and 4 now. 8 out of 9 kill contribution. His Kalista should never go to him, ever.
It's been a team performance. He's the only person short of 100% kill participation. It's 90% or above.
That's true.
For the entire team. Team performance required as scores all alone.
Yeah, 401 isn't exactly the best game for Score thus far. He's going to finally use the stopwatch and gets a little bit angry. But you can understand why. He's going to the Death Chamber. 4 versus 5 as SKT follow some super creeps towards the enemy base.
Really good stuff from KT. Reminds me of Kingzone yesterday, being able to turn it on the moment they got even a sniff of an opportunity. Smart is left all alone as SKT want even more than just the cow.
Yeah, Unbreakable Will's looking real breakable at this point, Papa Smithy. And it's just kill after kill. And SKT know that when they're given an inch, they know exactly what to do. Smeb on the wrong side of this situation. Already the backs are coming in, but this will cost them an inhibitor. We've got super creeps on the Nexus. Bang, actually wanting to get Nexus turret damage. This will be all of the inhibitors going down. Looks like game number 3. It felt inevitable because every time we see this iteration of KT versus SKT, it goes the distance apart from the spring final.
The insane thing is, Atlas, that we've had all the best of 3s, 2 best of 5s, and yet there's only ever been 1 game that didn't go 3 games because the spring final was a 3-0.
Yep.
It was only the reverse sweep from SKT that did not go 3 games. Went the full 5 that time as SKT turned on to Baron, and sorry KT, you're not going anywhere near it.
Nope. We're going to get our money's worth. That's the brilliant part. Selling tickets to the Telecom war is pretty easy because you know you're going to get all of those games. History has certainly taught us that one. And if there's any night where you want to be at work a little bit longer, it's certainly a night like tonight.
Game 3 will be KT on blue side. And so far the series has gone blue side focus. How much of this game was Bang being back on Kalista? Certainly helped with their initiation. To me, the game was more decided by KT actually opening the door and SKT still being that high-class team to take advantage out of a mistake. In every iteration, through every lineup, that has been an SKT standby. Maybe they're in the early game, they fall behind. Maybe they actually don't have the tempo at the start of the mid game, but ever give them a chance and they will put you to bed. That's what they've done for KT in game 2. Feels like whatever happens this game, we're all but ready to ink the win for SKT and that mouth-watering game 3.
Oh yeah. We'll remember that KT get to move back to the blue side, which has been somewhat of a power play. Got a ghost coming out somewhere. That was actually flashed from Mata used. Pawn having to use the ghost. Still able to move pretty quickly, but now it's that suffocation. It's that full power SKT knocking on your door. Super creeps, Baron buff, everything that they could possibly need. 2 minutes remaining of that purple aura. And Mata's just getting chunked. He will have to use the ultimate if he wants to try and start anything. Def getting some decent damage, but he doesn't have the items that he had in the last game, and these turrets are getting smashed down. Blank jumps his way forward. Def has to deal with that. Both turrets removed. Smeb's going to get destroyed. Score easily follows. Pawn trying to get damage down where he can, but Tal isn't even going to die. It's a triple kill for the god of the mid lane, and now they'll take down the Nexus. SKT will let it go the distance. It's a quadra in the end, and the king is back.
You never write the story of the Telecom war until the match is over. After game 1, KT looked oh so good. The game 2 start was also good for KT, and then the same SKT, the specter of the team that are 3-time world champions, came back, they powered them over, and suddenly it's a best of 1 for all the marbles, for the momentum in the second week of the season. It's crazy to think that after a spring season last year, well, this is the final fixture of the first round robin. It's the second fixture, the third fixture I should say, for both teams, and we are no closer to knowing who will come away with it. KT, just like in all those previous times, had a game 1 strategy that SKT had not scouted. The game 2, they tried something that did not work. The game 3 is really where the money is made. It's crunch time for KT and SKT. And I just can't wait to get to pick some bands and see what new stuff these teams have to serve up.
And I feel like as well, it tends to be Coma just having that genius moment, knowing exactly how to design a game 3 that SKT are going to win. This time, will it be a different story? It's 2018, it's a different beast. And KT, especially if we get the same KT from game number 1, which was reserved, controlled, but aggressive when they could be. This could be a different story. We could be rewriting history in our first Telecom war of the year. We will have one more break, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. The Telecom war will conclude.